Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of Codex Reviews. My name is Tim. This guy over here is Dan Kelly from Dan Kelly Art live on Instagram. And today we are going to talk about Spider-Man Across the Spiderverse. This awesome movie right here. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to deep dive. We are going to be spoiler heavy. So if you haven't seen it yet, by all means, put a pause on this video and wait until you have seen it to come back and see how we felt about Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Before we get into that, though, let's go ahead and get some business out of the way real quick. Ladies and gentlemen, we got that Patreon code right up there for you. If you so please, go ahead and scan that with your smartphone and join our Patreon. We got super awesome tiers on there, one for $3 and one for $7, and a bunch of great stuff exclusive only to patron members. Also, ladies and gentlemen, we are on all the socials. All you got to do is type in, you guessed it, the Codex Station for your favorite social media platforms and where you're watching this streaming right now. Dan, they need to do something while they're watching this. What would that be? I can't quite remember.
They need to send us all the valuable possessions in the world they own. But if they don't want to do that, then the least they can do is go on to the codexstation.com. It lists all the socials on there. They're just a click away. It lists profiles for everybody that is contributing to the channel. There's merch on there that you can get. Some is that Bagley art?
It is absolutely.
And, I know Jamie's dropping some new some new shirts soon. So just a lot of cool stuff on there. You can get to know all of us.
Yeah.
And find the station on, like I said, on every social media platform.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. As Dan said, he's giving great advice right now, and that would be to head over to the codexstation.com for all your Codex needs. One more thing before we get started here. We got a sponsor. That would be Dubby Energy. All you got to do is head over to dubby.gg to save 10% on your order using keyword code -X. The energy drink is amazing. It's awesome. Jamie and Sal talk about it all the time. Dan and I have had it too, and we love it, and we know you guys will too.
And they have something, I don't know if you've seen it before, where they had it where you could order the tubs and then you would get the starter pack that had the 2 individual servings and the shaker cup.
Yep.
Now the starter pack comes with 4 individual servings of 4 different flavors, and you can also order individual servings separately. So you can go on and order a 4-pack of them or an 8-pack of them.
Well, there you go. Now even more incentive. Just make sure to use that keyword code -X at checkout. All right. Now that the business is out of the way, in 3, 2, 1, it is spoiler heavy for Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Now, this was written by Phil Lord, Christopher Miller, and Dave Callahan, directed by Joaquin Dos Santos, Kemp Powers, and Justin K. Thompson. It's rated PG and starring a laundry list of amazing talent. Let's see here. Shameik Moore is Miles Morales. Haley Steinfeld is Gwen Stacy. Brian Tree Henry is Jeff Morales. Luna Lauren Valles as Rio Morales. Jake Johnson as Peter Parker. Jason Schwartzman as The Spot. Isa Rae as Jessica Drew. Karen Sony as Spider-Man India. Daniel Kaluuya as Spider-Punk, and last but not least, Oscar Isaac as Miguel O'Hara, or Spider-Man 2099.
Oh, you're forgetting one cool one.
Who did
Scarlet Spider.
Who did the voice of Scarlet Spider? I cannot remember.
It's Andy Samberg.
Oh, of course it is. Classic 90s pose. Checking out my muscles. Yes, I'll go with you, Miguel. Okay, let's get into this. Dan, tell us all about this movie. Tell us what it is, and then let's go into our thoughts.
All right, so this picks up about a year or so, a little over a year after the first Spider-Verse movie. Miles has gotten into being Spider-Man.
Not Miguel O'Hara, Miles.
Miles Morales. Everybody, he's established himself. Everybody knows who he is. It is part 1 of it's really I guess, a trilogy, but this is officially part one of a 2-part thing. So there is no post-credit scene that you have to wait for the end. When the credits roll, you can bounce.
Yeah.
But it definitely does end on a cliffhanger to go into a part 2. But yeah, it's him that has been Spider-Man for a little over a year, and then it starts off showing Gwen Stacy, and then introducing this idea of all these Spider-Men from across different realities teaming up to fight. I guess did they call them incursions? But essentially, that's what they are.
No, canon events, right? No, that's later.
Incursions, but the canon events are they get into that a bit later.
Yeah, but the incursions are correct. Yes.
Yeah, so she gets into that, and then it goes to Miles' story, who is his character is the main focus of it, and it shows how much he misses her, and it shows how much being Spider-Man is affecting his life with his parents and his schoolwork, and of course he hasn't told anybody, so they don't know why. They just see him as being flaky and irresponsible. Classic Spider-Man things. And then Gwen Stacy comes back into the picture, and then he feels like she's not being quite honest with him, and then he finds out why, and the Spot ends up being this massive villain, which you would never expect from the Spot, but ends up being this massive villain, this massive threat.
I am your arch nemesis, Spider-Man.
Yeah, that they have to fight, and then all of these Spider-Men from across all of these different realities have to fight, and we get introduced to them. Some of them that are familiar from the first movie, a lot of them that are brand new for this one. And the leader of them is Miguel O'Hara, who is, in the comics, he's Spider-Man 2099. In this one, I don't think they don't really refer to him. He's just a different Spider-Man from a different.
They just call him Miguel.
Yeah, like they never make any reference to him being from the future, so I guess he's just another Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And then they come into conflict with the Spot, but then Miles also comes into conflict with him, and then it, dovetails from there.
So, okay, man, let's go into this. Give us your thoughts on the movie. I'll go ahead and dive into mine here in a minute, but I really want to hear how you felt about this.
I really liked it, just as much as I liked the first one. And I'll be honest, with the first one, when it came out, I didn't see it in the theaters because I went, you know what? In the comics, I don't really care that much about Miles. Peter's my guy. And I saw the trailers, and I was like, I don't know about this animation style. It didn't really excite me. And I ended up watching it one day when it was on, I think it was on Netflix. And I sat down and watched it, and I was like, oh my God, this movie is fantastic. This is like, what? I was so wrong. This is great. So I wanted to see this, and my 5-year-old daughter had seen previews and wanted to see it. So we went, and I really dug how they do all the different animation styles, which they didn't really do in the first one. But in this one, it's like, oh, here's here's this Spider-Man from from like the 60s cartoon, and it's the 60s animated style, and like, oh,
Scarlet Spider was comic book style.
Yeah, like it was exactly the way that Tom Lyle drew the Scarlet Spider in the 90s,
and even there was live action footage.
Yeah, too. And live action too, and like he the Spot when he's bouncing around some different worlds, he like shows up in the convenience store for the convenience lady from Venom, and he's wondering like why she's not freaked out at all, and she's like, what do you want?
Yeah,
get out of here.
The part with the bread coming out of his stomach.
Yeah.
But speaking of animation, the animation for Spider-Punk, they said that took them 4 years to animate. Yeah, because they were doing it piece by piece, and they wanted to keep it that old independent zine punk style, and it worked really well. It looked really amazing.
I love the animation, the way that they did Vulture in that first big fight with him and Gwen. It was so cool looking.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay, so what was like Like the part you were anticipating the most in the movie versus the parts that you really didn't care for.
I mean, I think like anybody that's seen the trailers and seen what the title of the movie is, I was anticipating him meeting up with all of these different Spider-Men from all of these different realities. I mean,
Mhm.
it's across the Spider-Verse. That's kind of what they pushed in the trailer. But other than him really meeting up with Gwen, it's like not until about halfway through the movie that really happens.
Yeah.
You see Miguel and Jessica Drew in the very
Mhm.
beginning with Gwen, and then when it switches over to kind of recruit her, and then when it goes to Miles' story, it's Miles by himself for a long time, and then Gwen comes back into the picture, and and it's not till about halfway through the movie that he really gets in to meet all of these different Spider-Men.
Everybody.
And then as soon as he does, like it's just like here's 200 different spider characters.
Spider-Man, catch Spider-Man. What, him?
Yeah,
Him? You? Me? What? No.
yeah, that was funny.
That was I thought that was hilarious. So, okay. So was there anything about the movie that you didn't care for? Was there something that didn't live up to your expectations or just wasn't on par?
I did feel like outside of the action scenes, the story was really good, but I did feel like outside of the action scenes, the story did kind of tend to drag at times. And I get it because, he's unsure of himself and he's kind
Mhm.
of, debating on whether he should share his secret with his parents or not. And, you know, they're constantly on him. And, it's the typical teenager, the world doesn't understand me stuff on top of, well, this kid's actually right because he's Spider-Man and they really don't understand him. But I did feel like at times, and when he's talking to Gwen when she first comes back in, like, I get that you want to establish the mood and that you want to build the story, which is awesome. But for me,
Mhm.
it did tend to just kind of drag at times. I'm like, all right, let's let's move this along now. Let's move the
Now's the
story
time
along.
to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, but other than that, yeah, I really like the movie. What about you?
Okay, so I went with my brother who came down from Ohio with his kids, my sister and her kids, and my brother in law and my kids. This was a whole big thing. We bought out 2 rows
Wow.
at the movie theater. Yeah. And God, so the first one I think is top tier it's a top tier film,
Oh yeah,
right? This is top tier storytelling, and I didn't think that they could get anywhere near close to that. I think it's safe to say that with Across the Spider-Verse, they got right up there. By God, they got right up to the top. I don't think it's as good as the first, but saying that isn't a negative, right?
yeah,
Because this movie is amazing. Pun intended. It's spectacular.
yeah.
It's sensational. This movie
It's web
is
of.
what's that?
It's web of.
It absolutely is. It's friendly neighborhood. It's all of that stuff. This movie is well worth your time. The movie is completely family friendly, but perfect for adults, people that are lifelong comic book fans. And to get to see characters like the bombastic Bagman swinging after Miles in
Yeah,
the middle of all that, Miguel O'Hara finally on the big screen, Jessica Drew even, they even had, the Spider-Woman from the '80s, the one that was in the black and
yeah,
white
yeah.
outfit. She was there. Insomniac Spider-Man was in there. Ben
The
Riley was in there.
the um the Spider-Man from like the old, was it the '60s cartoon, the one
Yeah,
from the Sensational Spider-Man
yeah.
cartoon,
He
and
even
like you
had
said,
speaking part.
yeah, and like you said, live action, yeah, and they got those original voice actors back,
Yeah,
and like you said, live action, he's sees all these villains that they've captured, these incursions, and one of them that just pops up. It's like, oh, there's Donald Glover in the Prowler costume in live
yeah,
action, and he's standing there like talking with him, and he's like, man, they wouldn't have got me. I tripped, or it was something like that. But they're like, well, that's pretty cool. And then they had, even though they weren't in it, they had scenes from the previous live action Spider-Mans,
Yeah.
like Tobey Maguire and them. They had those kind of in the background where they were showing different things, which on one hand kind of teases the possibility of them kind of being in the next one. But I feel like the way that they established the live action with the animation there, like they can't
No,
they
not
can't really have anyone in there other than like for a quick cameo, because you're not going to
yeah.
have you're not going to have them show up in live action with the animated thing and then have it be a long drawn out thing, because it's going to be too weird.
Yeah. Now the live action stuff brings me to the canon events, which we talked
Yeah.
about briefly just a minute ago. So the way Miguel O'Hara describes it is that the canon events are events in a Spider-Man's life that are essential to them growing and becoming Spider-Man. The death of Uncle Ben being one. For Gwen Stacy, it was the death of Peter Parker. Miles had yet to have his canon event, or no, he did with the death of his uncle.
Yeah.
And they were in Spider-Man India's world, and the way they animated him and having him swinging around and doing all that stuff was
Oh yeah,
amazing.
with the bracelet. I can't
Yeah,
remember what they're called. The
yeah, but
the
it
bang, I can't, the
yeah,
bangle, is that what they're called? I
I,
think.
I think so. But either way, it looked wonderful.
Oh
The
yeah,
animation style was gorgeous. And they were in the middle of him having his canon event, which was the father of his girlfriend.
the police captain.
Yeah, that world's Captain Stacy basically
Yeah,
was getting ready to die protecting a small child, and Miles interfered with that and saved him, and that kind of drives Miguel to be so pissed off at him that it leads to one of the best scenes in the movie. And the start of it is when Miles takes off and all the Spider-Men are chasing after him and stuff like that. But when they get on that train and that thing just starts going up and they have that big fight on the train, it is
yeah.
just absolutely wonderful. The whole sequence with every bit of animation, it just looked unreal. So
But also, why were they? Remember why they were going after him? It's because I don't think the uncle was his canon event. It was his father was just being made a police
his
captain
father was getting
and was
ready.
supposed to die, and he's like, "I'm
Yeah,
going to stop it," and they're like, "No, you can't. We can't let you go."
yeah, we can't
And
let
then it
that
was
happen.
him saying like, "No, I'm going to do this," and then the same thing for Gwen, because she's like, "Wait a minute, my father's a captain," and
Yeah,
that was kind of like a thread that they mentioned throughout it too, is like, oh, the police captains that are close to Spider-Man are the ones that die, and then
yeah,
that's why all of them are trying to stop it. But then because Miguel told him, he's like, you're the aberration, like you weren't supposed to be Spider-Man. The spider came from another universe to bite you. If it hadn't and had given the Peter Parker of that world the spider powers like it was supposed to, like none of this stuff would be happening now.
yeah. Exactly. And that goes into when he eventually figures out how to escape back to his world, which I think was Earth 42 or Universe 42, right? Not Earth 42, that's DC. Sorry, crossover. But Universe 42, but everything looks the same. His mother looks the same, all of that stuff. His uncle's alive, which is the tell of things starting to be different. And once his uncle and he are separated, right? They're together but away from other people. You kind of
Yeah.
figure out that where he's at is not exactly the place he needs to be, because he told his mom or the mom there, I'm Spider-Man. This is why I've been doing all these things. This is why I've been acting this way. It's because of this. I'm Spider-Man. She's like, whatever. There's no
She didn't know
Spider-Man.
who it was because
Yeah,
there was no Spider-Man in that universe. She's like, "Oh, is that one of your cosplays?" And then
yeah,
that's when we figured out it didn't send me to my universe. This machine that sent them didn't send me to my universe when it read my DNA. It sent me
yeah.
to the universe that the spider that bit me came from.
And that's where we learn that in that universe's Miguel becomes the Prowler. And
Or that
that,
universe is Miles, yeah, because they
or
said
yeah,
something about his hair
Miles.
too. Because
Miguel and Miles, it's all the same. They're all Spider-Men.
because they said something about his hair too when he first showed up. He's like, "Oh,
Yeah.
you took your braids out," and he's like, "What do you? Or did you change your hair?" His mom said something about changing his hair, and
Yeah.
he's like, "What are you
My
talking
hair's
about?"
always like this.
Yeah,
Yeah, so as far as negatives go for the movie, I really don't have any. There were like two parts, and I'm not the only one that noticed this. There were a lot of other people that did too. Like in the beginning when Gwen's beating the snot out of those drums, you can't really understand or hear what she's saying over that. And there was another part toward the end where it was the same way. That's the only real complaint I have. It did not feel too long to me. It did not feel drawn out. The dramatic pieces were amazing. They were well crafted. They were very enjoyable to watch. The action scenes were bar none some of the best I've seen in animation. The dare I say live action. Um, Overall, I mean, this movie is wonderful. It's not Empire Strikes Back, but it's pretty close. I think it's Return to the Jedi level, right?
and
Or
they said about the sound issues. I guess they're like sending new prints or new. They're
mm,
re-releasing. They're doing something where they're sending new ones out to the
to the
theaters to fix
theaters.
the sound issues.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna buy it when it streams on digital anyway, so I'll just watch it fixed there. But let's go ahead and get into our grades. So, Dan, 1 to 10 Codex rating. What do you give this?
Uh, I'll give it a 8.5.
Ooh.
Um, like I said, I really enjoyed it. The only issue I really had is, like I said, in the first half of the movie, I did think that some of the dramatic scenes just kind of dragged on a bit. That could have been a little shorter, but other than that, yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I'm
Okay.
definitely looking forward to the second part.
Nice. As far as my rating goes, I am not too far off from you. I'm just like a half a point above. So I'm going to give this a 9 out of 10. Like I said, I don't think it's as great as the first one, but it is right up there. It is pretty darn close.
Yeah,
They continued to do the same things that they did that made the first movie so magical. They did not change the formula too much. As a matter of fact, they added other ingredients with the animation style of Spider-Punk. And like you said, making sure that the animation styles for each of the different Spider-Men that you could see matched where they came from, and that I think was a great attention to detail. Yeah, absolutely amazing. Oscar Isaac was wonderful as Miguel O'Hara. The rest of the voice cast was wonderful too, as usual, and I cannot wait for the final chapter in this. So, Dan, you give it an 8.5 out of 10. I give it a 9 out of 10. I think it is safe to say that overall, as a Codex grade, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse gets an 8.75 out of 10.
yeah. Like I said, the only thing for me was just kind of the pacing issues. That, like you said, the first one, it's like if the first one's here, this one's
It's
like
right
just
there.
there. Yeah, like the pacing in the first one, I thought was just perfectly solid the whole way through.
Nice.
Yeah. But yeah,
All right. Well, let's go ahead and get out of here. Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't, make sure to check out the live shows that we have airing 3 times a week. That would be the Codex podcast right here on the Codex station. We also have After Dark, which constitutes comics of the week, the new hot stuff that's on the shelves, and Breaking the Code. You can see Dan for comics of the week and Kevin for Breaking the Code. And also, if you want to catch more Dan, you can catch him on Comic Character of the Week, where as of this recording, Martian Manhunter is out, and I know Moon Knight is on his way. Is that correct?
yep. The next one is Moon Knight, which will be next week. I guess. I guess Thursday. I think we'll do it.
Yeah, so if you're watching this, then this comes out
Or
Thursday, so you'll get to
whatever.
see
Yeah.
that later in the evening. There you go. All right, ladies and gentlemen, once again, before we get out of here, don't forget to check us out on all the socials. All you got to do is type in at the Codex Station, and that is where you will find us. Your favorite live streaming platform as well, and your favorite social media platforms. Hit the like, share, subscribe, and follow, so that way we can bring more content like this to you all the time, every time. Dan, there's a website that they should go check out. What would that be?
Go check out the codexstation.com. You can find all of our socials on there. You can find profiles on everybody that does shows on there. You can get merch. It's just a great spot to go to. It will brighten
Definitely.
your day.
Absolutely. If your day is cloudy and rainy, go to thecodexstation.com for a little bit of sunshine. And once again, don't forget our sponsor for this week's episode, W.GG is the website to go to. W Energy is the sponsor. Make sure to use keyword code -X at checkout so you can save 10% on your order. All right. Once again, my name is Tim. This guy over here is Dan Kelly Art, formerly of Instagram, now live from Instagram. Jamie, that's how I say it. You got to write it down so you can remember. We are the Codex Station, and we will see you next time.